Today, I'm going to start getting this plywood on that wall. We're going to be starting in this corner here. It's a partial sheet, and we have these corner reinforcements in the way. But before we do any of that, I got to snap a chalk line right from this little dash here all the way down to the other corner. All right, we are about in the middle. Just want to do a double check here. Make sure that we're level. Okay, that's good right there. Beautiful, perfect. This was originally laid out with a laser about a year ago. Now, each one of our panels will fall roughly on these lines. It all depends on the real width of that rough plywood. Now, I'm just gonna take a straight edge, and that one's right at the 2x4. Mark the locations of all these brackets and then measure down from my nail right there, and that's what I need to route out on the back of my sheet. And I'm going to drop a plumb line. Well, actually I should have what I need already, and measure over from where the edge of the plywood's going to go over to here, and then I'll subtract 1/4 inch, and that'll be my width. If you're wondering what this heater is doing here, I'm trying to get this area in here heated up so that I can spray some Great Stuff pest block. I had to drill a hole down through this insulation. There's 4 inches of XPS insulation in these pockets here, and then there's a 2x8 at the bottom of that, a 2x8 treated. I had to drill down through all that stuff. And if I don't get this pest block in there before I cover this wall up, we're gonna have ants and mice come right up through that hole. It's a 7/8 inch hole, and that's plenty big enough for mice to get through. So I gotta spritz this stuff in there. It should be warm enough now. I'll do that real quick, and then we're gonna have to deal with all of those blocks. I got all that concrete on top of the plywood. I'm gonna have to get all that off, and I'm gonna keep putting it back after I take a sheet. So yeah, that's gonna be a little bit of a dilemma, but we'll figure it out. Let me get this sprayed so that I can get this heater out of here. I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to see this that well. I'm spritzing it with water. That helps activate the foam. This is not real critical to the wall, but it has to be done. All right, now that just needs to set up for a while. All right, onto the plywood. This is, I believe this is BCX plywood. We'll find out once we get this cover sheet off of it, but it's gonna wanna curl if it's not weighted down. You can see the top 2 sheets are a little curly right now. So what I want to do is every time I grab a sheet, I'll take these blocks off, and I want to put them on like the horses over there, but I don't have any more horses over here. The horses are over at my tiny house project. If you haven't seen any of those videos, it's worth a watch. So I'm gonna run over there and get another pair of horses. We'll get a sheet off of here, get the weights back on, and get going cutting it. All right, this is by far my worst edge here, and I was correct. This is BC ply, so this other side is going to be the B, and this is the C. This corner right here will be that upper corner right there. Well, wherever it's cut off, the corner will actually be right in here somewhere. So first thing to do is just get the 2 dimensions. I measured at the top and at the bottom. The wall is slightly out of plumb, and we're going to cut it to match that. A track saw would come in real handy right here, but I don't have one. So I'm just going to make my marks, take my 8-foot straight edge and draw a line, and I'll cut it by hand with my circular saw. I've been looking into track saws, and at first I was just going to buy the DeWalt one, because I have all the DeWalt batteries. I have tons of DeWalt batteries. But then I watched a few reviews and I kind of soured on the DeWalt, except for the power. And I was leaning towards the Festool, but now I'm leaning towards the Milwaukee. I used to have all Milwaukee tools back in the day. We can go over that in a different video, but I think I'm going to do a video on track saws, and I'm going to get everybody's opinion on that before I make a purchase. But for now, we're going to have to settle for this. Okay. Make sure I'm not going to hit any metal. When I get my cut about halfway, I'll put this wood clamp on the edge so it doesn't droop down, and I think I'm going to put a couple concrete blocks on that side. Yeah, I'll do that real quick as well, and then we'll get this cut. I had to use this router without a base because my other routers are all either out of commission or too small. The router I used was in this router lift system, and this was its base plate. I might use this again. I might put that router back in here, but I have a lot of cleaning up to do. All of this stuff was sitting in an unheated space for over 10 years, and it got really nasty. This one's too small, and the one I went to, I had fixed this already, and now I noticed that I have exposed wire there, and the strain relief popped out. So I'm gonna have to take apart this handle and get all that fixed again. And then this one just didn't have the reach. I got all Porter cable routers. These were the #1 routers back when I used to run my business, and now I don't even know if they sell them anymore. I'll probably have to get a DeWalt one. We'll talk about that in a future video. I want to get other people's opinions on the new routers, but for now, this is ready. Oh, no, it's not. I got to flip this over and mark all the screw locations. Those are pretty darn important. So let me get that done and we'll get our first panel in place. I have all of my screw locations figured out, at least where on the panel. What I'm going to do is use the screw pattern that the manufacturer suggests, which is 6 inches on center on the edges and 1 foot on center in the field. What do we got here? 1.75 inches on the cut edge. So I think the next video that I'm going to do should actually be choices of materials for shop walls. I know it took me quite some time. I went back and forth trying to figure out what would be the best material that I can afford, and I'm sure that everyone is going to have a different opinion on what the best material is, but I believe that if I do a video on this, we can at least come to some kind of an agreement as to what's best. OSB, drywall, plywood, how thick a plywood, what are the pros and cons. Yeah, that's what I'll do for the next video. All right, I have to get a few more marks on here, and then, yeah, I have to go through this whole thing and mark the centers. So it's gonna take a little bit. I'll get back to you once I got that done. All right, I have all of my screw holes marked, and normally I would go around and give these a little poke with a scratch awl, but I really don't think I should be doing that. I got so many, and it's not super critical where these are. Well, it's fairly critical. Beautiful. This is my first time using this. This is a depth stop countersink. Yeah, that's going to work great. I might have it a little too deep. Let me adjust that. And yeah, that's going to be really nice. All right, let's get these drilled. I don't want these countersinks too deep because the screw is just going to sink way the heck into it, but I don't want to do it without a countersink because this is southern yellow pine, and southern yellow pine is a very hard splintery wood. And if I just throw these screws in here without a countersink, it's going to bust up the wood and lift stuff up. So it's a pain in the butt doing all of these countersinks, but it's going to look way better in the end. Okay, let's go put it up. Okay, we've got about a 1/4 inch there and a bit more on this side. I need to shim this until it comes right up to that line, and then put the 4-foot level on the edge and get it plumb, then shoot a screw in it. I have this wood block here to keep it from tipping back, but it seems to be holding pretty good right now. And I also have these. Oops, I got the screws in there the wrong way. I have these that I can screw in too to hold this end up against the wall, but it doesn't look like I'm going to need it. So let's do a little shimming, and then it'll need to come out this way just a hair. But I think that'll work its way out as I get this plumb. It's not all the way in. Okay, a little bit of fiddling around, and we can shoot our first screw into this. Beautiful. A little bit down on this side here, just a smidge, and we're right where we need to be there. Then the whole thing has to go to the left a little bit, but got plenty of room to do that. Good, good, good. Okay, we are right on. Okay, we'll tap her over and throw a screw in. Perfect. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, that went in way smoother than I thought it was going to. The one thing I'm going to do is shallow up the countersink a little bit. These are a little more deep than I want, but that's not a big deal. I should note that the screws along the bottom are these screws right here for treated wood, and the rest of them are construction screws. If you put construction screws into that treated wood, it just eats them alive, and you don't want that. And when I put this next panel in, we have a post behind this one, so I'm going to use 4-inch screws and go through the 2x4 here and into that post. So those are going to be treated screws as well, like these are. These go into the post back here. So this one is going to be a huge challenge. I have to disconnect the electric. This is a service entrance right here. I need to disconnect that stuff and then lay everything back here. I have to cut a notch for where this pipe comes in, where this conduit comes out of there, because it's a little too far back. And then I have the conduit bent already, but I got to cut this to length and do some sanding and stuff like that. Get everything ready, get the panel cut. Well, I'm going to get the panel cut before I turn everything off. I got to go out to the pedestal and turn the power off in here. So I'm going to be without lights and heat until I get this next panel in. So I don't know how long that's going to take. It may take the majority of the day tomorrow. I do have all my tools here and stuff is all ready. That took up the majority of the day today, but I'm already at the end of the day. And I need to cut a door right here in that panel so I can run this water line over. That's a complicated story. I'll tell you about that later. I need to have a door right here for the propane valve. That's the shutoff valve for the propane in here. And everything has to go behind this stuff, and it's going to have to go up and then down around that. And it's going to be a full panel, so it's going to be quite heavy. Yeah, tomorrow is going to be real challenging, but we're going to get to that in just a second. Okay, I had to jump ahead, otherwise I wasn't going to get this done today. So I did my measuring. I measured from the edge of this plywood minus 1/8 of an inch. That's the spacing that you need. And I used my combination square. Where the heck is that? Well, it's somewhere. And went over to the edge of this pipe on both sides, figured out where the center was, and then measured over from here to the center, subtracted the 1/8, and then laid it out on paper. I went 3 inches to either side, and then, oh, I forgot all about this. I got to take that out before I start. I screwed this right to the line, and that gave me something to hook my tape on. Came down and measured right to the center of that. I had figured out that I need about 1.5 inches of clearance, a little bit less than that, but I have plenty of clearance. So measured down to the center of that, and then I went 3 inches each way, and that comes to right about here. And I'll be putting a little door on that and painting it yellow, and it's going to say gas on there. Should be obvious enough for anyone to find the gas shutoff valve if they need to. I cut the end of this PEX off. I had a fitting on there that went to the hydrant. That was all temporary stuff. And I cut the door for that. This is not actually going to be a door. I don't know exactly where that line has to come through the plywood. So I made a big enough opening. Once I get this in place, I'm just going to clamp some cleats around the sides, and I'll cut an exact fitting plug using the router template. I'll use this to mark a piece on my scrap over there from the first panel, and I'll cut a hatch that fits exactly, and I'll run my pipe through permanently wherever it needs to go, and then just seal this whole thing up. Just put some glue on there, put my cover piece on, and then when everything's dry, just caulk the edge, smooth it up, and paint it like everything else. My biggest worry is that something is going to be in the wrong place. I've done it before, and I really hope I don't do it again. This is about 1/4 inch oversize, and the pipe is not going to like come through it. The pipe is like flush with the back and then comes through and goes up if everything goes right. This is the conduit. Oh, here's a mistake right here. Don't know how that happened. Well, I do know how it happened. This is bent. It has that offset to come onto the front of the panel. This is incorrect right here. Or no, this is the incorrect one right here. This is the correct one. So that goes on like that, and then comes out onto the panel, and then goes up and into here. This will have to come off. So what I got to do, I already have this loosened up. I got to go turn off the power, and then take this box off the wall, and then disconnect this box, disconnect everything in here, slide the wires out of that, and then pull the wires over, slide them through this, and then get these wires back here through the hole, get everything up, and then slide the box back down onto it, get the box fast, or actually I have to get the panel in there. That's the whole point of this. Get the panel in, and then tip everything back up, get it screwed to the wall. Then I can fiddle around with it. But once this wire is pulled taut in the conduit, it's going to have to be cut to length, bent like that, and reconnected to the bus bars. Yeah, and I got to get this all done before it gets dark. And I think I have about an hour, 2:45. I have about an hour and a half, which should be plenty of time. The panel, I only have to get, 4 or 5 screws in that before I can start doing the other stuff. So I think I'm ready to go. Yeah, this has me very, very nervous. If anything goes wrong, I don't have any power out here. I don't have any heat. Everything's running off these extension cords. One of these goes to the heater. One of them, this is what I'm using for all my tools. This is the lights. So if anything goes wrong, I have no power out here. I do have a flashlight. Where is that? Right there. So here we go. Wish me luck. Okay, that's how much light we have. Got our flashlight here. I can see well enough to work with this electric. $4:13. I believe sunset is 4:30, right around there, but it doesn't get completely dark right at sunset. But I am done. I have to go up to the pedestal and turn the power back on. That went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I still have a bunch of screws to get into this panel, and I'm going to clean up a little bit. Then I'll come back and we'll wrap this video up. Okay, got her all cleaned up, ready to go for the next video. The next video is probably going to be me putting in these two panels because it's going to take a while. I got to get the window box in there, get that foamed, and install the two panels. And I'll probably throw the conduit in that same video. I got to get this wire into conduit through the top of the box. Then I can fix the box in place and get that foamed up. That back area is going to get foamed up and then trimmed flush. And then when I paint everything, you'll hardly be able to notice it, but it will be in a cabinet anyways. We're going to end up having a urinal on the side right here and a sink that comes, well, the sink will be right here, but we're going to have a built-in cabinet right here that's going to hide all that water and all that stuff. And the sink will be right in front of the opening window. I'm going to have a bench in front of that window. So, yeah, that's going to be real interesting. The top of the cabinet is going to be at the same height as the miter saw, which is going to be over in here somewhere. So I'll have about 10 feet in and 10 feet out of the miter saw. Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I've been looking at lumber storage solutions for this upper part as well. It's going to be an interesting wall. So that's the plan. We'll get this wire done, get this box fixed in place, and get two panels in place in the next video. And then the video after that, I'll get 4 panels in place and finish up the wall. Then we're going to clear off that other wall over there and start over there.